Today, guys, so just setting up the tank for our baby major skinks. It is a bit smaller than what you'd put adults in. They get to about the size of a blue tongue, but this is just going to grow them out. So in about 6 months to a year, we'll put them in a much bigger enclosure. But just getting this shelf sorted. So we got our hooded scalyfoots, our Burton's legless lizard is sitting in the back there, and I'll just get the major skinks here. It's a bit of a mess in here at the moment. We're going to get the Jackie Dragons up there and some other lizards up the top too, and some frogs or something down the bottom. Get it sorted. Still settling in after the move in January, so trying to get things sorted and get the room how I want it. Takes time, but we're trying to do naturalistic to bioactive tanks in the majority of the enclosures. I found bioactive tanks for small lizards and frogs and things like that can actually be easier because they clean themselves to a degree. So I've got a couple of old under gravel filters for drainage underneath the sand, and under the gravel filters is actually ceramic hydroponic balls used in hydroponics, obviously, and that will not only help to help with drainage so it doesn't get soggy and bacteria builds up, but they have quite a large surface area because they're porous, and that helps bacterial growth. So I've chucked in a couple of plants to start with because I want them a little bit deeper, and we've got some climbing ficus, so climbing fig, it's a smaller species, and some umbrella fern. Yeah. What I'm going to do now is put a layer of carbon or charcoal. Normally I just use the wood charcoal you buy from the hardware and crush it up, but I had this left over, so I may as well just use the rest of it, and that's the perfect amount. So you might be wondering why we're using the charcoal. I'll just mix it in a little bit with the sand, it doesn't matter too much. Charcoal actually helps to absorb toxins, but more importantly, it's got a massive surface area because microscopic bacteria and things can grow in it. And we're talking about good bacteria here that help to get rid of the waste products from the animal. So it's really important in a bioactive enclosure to have that good bacteria, and to help promote that and to absorb some of the nasty toxins, we use charcoal. So I'm going to put some cocoa peat mix in that now. So this is a mix we make up. Basically, there we go. That's got a mix of sand, some larger chunks of cocoa peat. A lot of people will go and buy sphagnum moss, which is, the ideal thing to do because you can't easily source sphagnum moss. It's not growing in people's backyards. Well, it is for us. So I use the sphagnum moss that's actually growing in the backyard here. That's one of the perks of living literally in the bush and in the mountains. We actually have proper natural sphagnum moss growing here. So this is the larger, chunkier cocoa fibre. And I'm going to put a layer of the thinner stuff on top of that. So that will actually make it a bit better. Put a plant in. So I'm going to put some smaller plants in there. We're going to have a heat light up this end. So obviously we don't want any plants up there because that will just cook them. So we're going to keep all the plants, smaller plants around the front here potentially, and maybe one or two big ones up the back there. All right, we'll go get them sorted and finish setting up. So we've dissolved the brick. You can buy the bricks, cocoa peat. Just be really careful if you borrow these bricks of cocoa peat from Bunnings or wherever. That's basically that it doesn't have any added fertilizers in it. You don't want, especially if you've got frogs, even lizards, doesn't really matter. You don't really want chemicals being added to your terrarium. So it's really important just to get the most basic cocoa peat. And I made a fairly thick mixture, so the lumps of charcoal and other cocoa peat that is underneath this was quite chunky. It's quite thick. I prefer that on the bottom layer. I find it does quite well with the plants, but I do like to have this finer layer on top. It helps to retain humidity and helps with the things like the ficus to grow through it. That's better for the root system. All right, so now we've done that, we've got that pretty much finished. It's a fairly thick layer of substrate, but don't forget, and you can't see it from the front, which I did purposely, there is, you know, the ceramic balls underneath, the hydroponic balls, and there's also the, what do you call it, the under gravel filter. So look, guys, this is not really a instructional video. I'm literally chucking this thing together today. I will do some more actual bioactive terrarium videos step by step, but I'm actually under the pump today trying to get stuff done, so this is just a real quick one. So once again, we live in the mountain forests, the rainforests up here at the back of the Yarra Ranges, and I've got some you know, just local rainforest leaf litter here. This is fantastic for our beneficial bugs, or some people call them cleanup crews, or whatever you want to call them, the isopods, slaters, stuff like that. This will be great for them. It will be great for the lizards to forage through, the little major skinks, the baby ones, obviously. And, you know, they're going to be able to have a bit of enrichment in there, looking for bugs and crickets, maybe even hide some mushrooms in there for them. Major skinks love mushrooms. So that's a good layer. I'll replace that as needed. So if I do need to do any maintenance on this, it's really easy. I've just got a cardboard box. I just grab some out of the backyard. But it's easy enough for me to get a bucket of this and store it somewhere in the shed, let it dry out if I need to, or just go and get some more. All right, I reckon we'll put some more plants in, make it look pretty, and put the lizards in a minute. Righto, so I chucked a few more plants in. We've got some little ferns and the ficus. There's ferns and ficus there. Put in a couple of these parlour palms. The parlour palms are really easy to get from Bunnings. Even Big W has them sometimes, and they are a little bit more heat tolerant. Obviously, you don't want a basking light. As you can see, the basking light's up at the top. You don't want a basking light on them. You don't want that on any plants, but they'll do quite well in here. I have them in a lot of my tanks, and they grow really well. And we've just chucked a little water fern in the back there. We'll see how that goes. It may not do any good, but it's always a bit of trial and error, and just some local mosses and stuff, see if they take off at all. We'll have to probably clean out some of this stuff at some point, you know, so the moss is probably not suitable for an enclosure like this with these little lizards, but they've got the leaf litter to hide in. We've got a little hide down the bottom here, water bowl, obviously. And yeah, I reckon we should get them in and see how they like it. Oh, and just for anyone that's wondering with the plants, we've got a multi-spectrum aquarium light, you know, to help these plants grow, and for the lizards themselves, one of the little dichrotic lights, so, you know, down lights that you can get from Bunnings. So, look, I find these are fantastic, and there's a number of books on keeping lizards. The birds are sitting right under it. Over here, the crickets are sitting under the other one. I don't know where the scalyfoots are, but, you know, there's a number of books that mention how great these are, especially on things like exoterras and terrariums. They just provide a nice little hot spot right where my hand is. So the major skinks can get up on this bit of driftwood. There's a few bits there that I've put together, and bask. And the room temperature in the reptile room doesn't really drop below 22 to 25, which for a species found from northern New South Wales to North Queensland, and that basking light, look, this is absolutely fine for temperatures. So I reckon we get them in. All right, guys, the great unboxing of our major skinks. So these are juveniles. Beautiful little lizards. Sorry, it's a bit hard to hold the camera and get them out. Oh, there they are, hiding down the bottom. So these are a beautiful skink related to the land mullet. There's one of the babies. Hey, gorgeous. I'm going to sit on the heat light. And these are basically like a large species of skink that lives on the forest floor. They eat a lot of fungus and snails and bugs, fruits, things like that. So they're definitely omnivores. One of the things, I found this quite interesting when I found out, oh, they've made a mess in their bag and I got my finger in it. One of the things I found quite interesting about these guys is that they, there's a little man, here you go, whoop, he's at the front. Better close this door. They eat barramundi pellets in captivity. They love them. So I've gotten on eBay and ordered me some barramundi pellets for our major skinks, so that these little guys have something extra in their diet. We'll give them mushrooms and insects and fresh fruit and veg and stuff as well. But I've heard that basically if you put barramundi pellets and mushrooms in, they might just avoid the other stuff. They're pretty keen on them. There we go, guys. So these obviously this year's young from a good friend of ours down in Gippsland, who breeds them amongst other things. These will grow much larger, but this is, you know, for 6 months, maybe, probably not a year, about 6 months. This is a great little enclosure for them. And I wanted to set up an enclosure like this anyway, because down the track I'd like to get potentially some prickly forest skinks or something along those lines. Maybe a small rainforest lizard that can live in here permanently. So there you go. Awesome, guys. Stay tuned and like and share the videos. And yeah, got our little lizards set up, and we'll see you next time.